Hey, Bob. Starting in two minutes. Just wanna. Hey, Andrew, going to rejoin shortly. Okay, I might as well put my camera on. Right. Give me a minute to get myself combobulated here. I'll put this to the side. Things aren't refreshing fast enough. Right. At least I confirm I am live. Live. So you know what? Fun. I've been messing with this OBS Open Broadcasting software. Let's see. Hey Andrew, can you hear me? I mean, I could put this guy louder. Let's see. Let me look at the meters. The meters. Not the band, although. 1, 2. Okay, we're getting some level. We're rocking it out. You gotta be careful. If it's not too loud, it starts going. How's that? Can you hear me now? Put this right by my mouth. Yeah. Anyway. Happy Thursday. Chris, what's up? Happy Thursday evening, jamming with Lily as we speak. All right. Lily is my niece and Andrew is my brother, and Lily, they both play some guitar, so they're jamming out. Maybe we'll get them to a gig on the show sometime. Anyway, we're just starting. So, what am I doing? You know what? I might as well play. Tell me if you could hear this. I just set up a bunch. I'm just learning OBS now, which is Open Broadcasting Software, which is kind of how you could do things like this. I mean, really rudimentary things like have multiple cameras and. Oh, thank you. Good. You guys are my sound crew. You have to have overlays like this Dave Blair thing. I could put my album covers. Look, buy this. I also have. I could have multiple cameras, like a professional. Wait, where's the other camera? Is this the overhead camera? That's like an old Logitech webcam, and you can go to this one, which is a better camera. This is actually a Sony A6500. Actually, you know what? Forgot to do something. Let's see if this should make all the difference. This is actually a good example of the importance of lighting. So I had to put, it's just a little LED light there, but definitely helpful. Now I have to adjust the camera because now it's a little bit bright, right? So we adjust the camera to go put the ISO down. Anybody knows about cameras? Oop, no, not auto. Go down to about 200 ISO. We maybe would close the aperture a little bit. See, this is not like a webcam. It's a real camera. So we could do, and I don't know if it affects the white balance. Let me try another white balance. Now I'm pink, and it's. Oh, look at all this crazy stuff. That's not too bad. How's that one compared to this one? I just learned a new thing, how to do, what do they call it? You could take the color profile, tweak it, and then import that. You could do that on like Photoshop or DaVinci Resolve or any of these these photo or video programs. You could do color correction, which I'm just learning how to do, and then apply that color correction map or whatever to OBS. But I was just saying, lighting is important. It's a little bit blinding to me, but a lot of people, they buy all these expensive cameras, this and that, and their pictures don't look good because they don't even understand lighting. And lighting is everything. You need a lot of light, and you gotta know about light placement. Oh, I guess. Oh, there you go. The light went out. I guess that one died. Okay. What the heck? You know what? I guess we have to move the aperture back up. I'm not gonna redo the lighting. As I was speaking, is that called irony? As I was speaking about the importance of lighting, the lighting went out. But the importance of having a lens that could open up to 1.4. So we're talking about anything here. Music, I guess photography is more art. So for those, but there's issues with the video. I know a couple of things. The camera is a very good camera, but because capture cards are impossible to get right now, normally you would take a DSLR camera, run it through a capture card, and then you would it basically treats the expensive fancy camera like a webcam, and then you plug it in and you go. But capture cards are just like hard to find or impossible to find or triple the price because everybody's working from home now and everybody's buying webcams. So what I had to do is do a little bit of a hack. The Sony cameras have an application where on the web, on the desktop, you can connect your computer via USB cable or a Wi-Fi, and what you could do is view on the screen and adjust, like I just was a minute ago, your aperture and everything, and see the view on your desktop of your camera. So you could be doing a photo session and be on your laptop at the same time on the big screen and see. It's kind of a cool app. Well, OBS has a feature where you could screen capture. So basically I'm screen capturing that. And that's the best we're gonna do. So you definitely lose some resolution with that. And also because there's a little bit of a lag because it's going through all that, there's a latency of some 30, 100 milliseconds or something, whereas my voice is directly into the computer, so it's quick. So you get a little bit of the foreign movie kind of thing, so you have to then in OBS compensate, create a delay of the microphone. And when you do that, actually what I should be doing is wearing the headphones just to hear. 1, 2. One. Is that even up? 1, 2. Actually, I can't hear myself, but I assume you could hear me. Why is it doing that? I don't know. It's not that important now, but it will be. Once monitoring is off, that'll do it. Monitor output 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. There we go. Anyway, I hear a lot of background noise. I'm not sure why. This is a very sensitive microphone. I should probably be using the SM7, but this was set up from a session I was doing, and this is a Perlman TM1 microphone, really good microphone, but it's meant for recording vocal sections. And I have a feeling it may need a new tube because I've been hearing little crumply, crackly things, which I have a new tube in the closet, but I haven't had the time to take it apart and put the new tube in. But let me give it a little more power even. Yeah, that's that crumpling sound. I think that needing a tube, but we'll have to deal with it. But the sound is pretty good, right? It's very clear and warm. Dave Perelman is the guy, and since we're talking about music, and who knows, maybe he'll join one of these days. Pete Townsend's birthday today. 2 days ago. Favorite Who song and why? Favorite Pete song and why? I always like The Real Me. It's fun to sing, and the bass line is just amazing. I did it in the band years and years ago. It's just a killer. It just has, it's, can you see the real me? That was always a cool song. Pete song. I'm trying to think. I'm just in between what's a Pete song and which ones are the Who songs. Well, Eminence Front. I always loved Evan's front. It's kind of funky. It's got you know, that's it's a Who song, but it's Pete singing it. So I guess that would qualify as a Pete song. If you're talking about Pete solo, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not as familiar. I know Face Dances and some of the other stuff, but I couldn't list you all the solo stuff, which makes me think of like Floyd versus David Gilmour solo stuff. For some reason that popped up in my mind. Now the Dave Gilmour albums are pretty cool. I forget the name of them all. There's one where he's standing in front of like a house in like a fieldish thing, just kind of standing there. That cover, Magic. But I wasn't a fan of Magic, but I mean it's okay. The earlier stuff, I mean it's weird, but they went through that big transformation for like almost like Spinal Tap, where it was a '60s psychedelic, weird, and then they got into more of a modern rock sound. And then they went through their keyboard phase, like every band, which was always pretty cool. Where they actually made keyboards cool, where they used the arpeggiator on Baba O'Reilly. That's super cool. I haven't heard any other bands do that sound, which maybe I'll do that sometime. Roger Daltrey had a solo record which he used that a lot. Yeah, The Who, really good band. Actually, it's funny, as people throw things in, it makes me think of stories, and I realize that I've actually been around and done things, more than I actually thought. So I did meet John Entwistle once in person. A friend of mine owned a recording studio. Tarek owned a recording studio. It was called Primetime Studios, and it was in the Bronx, I think, or up north. I think it might have been Yonkers. I always get confused which is which. He played on Paul Rogers' first solo record. I know Gilmour played on a lot of stuff. He even played on some Paul McCartney stuff. All those British people hang out together, right? All those Brits there. But anyway, John Entwistle's story. So I walk into the studio. We were doing, I think we were friends. He actually helped me get a lot of my equipment, because he knew equipment. He owned a recording studio, so he was able to get me stuff at like studio, like professional rates and discounts, tax free, because it was like he ran it through his business. So he got me a lot. It turned me on to a lot of cool gear. He got me discounts on a lot of cool gear. Actually, he works for RCF now, and if you see behind me, there's this RCF. Can't really. Now you can't hear me, but behind me there's an RCF Evox 8 PA, and it's a killer PA, and I have also our RCF M18 mixer, which is basically a mixer that you could do. Maybe I'll bring it on the show, whatever you want to call us, and show you. Basically, I love the concept of I could mix the whole band on an iPad instead of bringing out the 75-pound mixer. That was like a deal breaker. That was like sold. Take my money, please. Has this just a little box that has everything. I don't even take the front off the box. I just put it there, turn it on. It connects to my iPad, and I can mix. And it's obviously I could put it right on the music stand. And if my monitor's too low, or if the needs more guitar in the mix, boop, it's just slide the thing up. The only problem is sometimes that I have my lyrics on there at the same time. Yes, I do memorize my lyrics. Not being lazy, but sometimes we have hundreds of songs, and sometimes people call stuff out that I haven't done in years or never did or whatever. And also, it's not just the lyrics. We do a lot of stuff with tracks, with lip service. And it's not just the words, it's the arrangement. Like, how many times is the break between the first chorus and the next verse? Is it 4 bars? Is it 8 bars? How many times before it comes in with the guitar? And if you don't get that right, then all of a sudden you're still singing the verse and the track goes to the chorus. So you really got to know that. Either memorize it, or when we have several hundred tracks, which allows us to just on the fly take requests of stuff that we have never done sometimes, and use. I'm actually listening to the track by ear, trying to determine the key and the chord changes by ear, which is good practice. I've been in a few bands like that where they just call stuff out and you got to follow, which is really good practice, stressful practice of your ear training. But anyway, John Entwistle story. So I go into the studio. We're doing a rehearsal, a recording session in the studio. I walk in, not thinking anything, and there on the couch just hanging out is John freaking Entwistle. And I'm like, be cool, Dave. So I just, I'm cool. And I say, hey, what's up? Don't even say, hey, oh my God, who, just, and I was waiting for rehearsal, so we're hanging out. So I'm sitting on the couch with me. I think Tark was there, and John Entwistle was there, and we're just hanging out with John Entwistle. And he has this little video camera. This is probably in the late '90s. He's got a little video camera, and he's showing me pictures of his dog. On his video camera. He says, "This is my dog." I think it was a little white dog. I forget. And he started talking about he lives in this house. I don't know. It was like not a castle, but a nice house, like old school English house. And he said he's telling me something like there's ghosts in his house. So he actually believed there was ghosts in his house, and he would see them at night or something. Which I was like, okay. I was just nodded agreeingly. Oh, ghosts in your house. Cool night. The dog was cute. And then he was actually rehearsing there, because anytime they toured that area, he would rehearse there with his solo band. And he had Tark took me into the room where they'd rehearse, and he had these stacks and stacks of bass amps and rack gear and all sorts of crazy stuff. He was, after the Who, when he did his solo stuff, he did all sorts of crazy rack stuff. Yeah. It's weird. Somebody asked me one time, like, who's the most famous person you've met? And I'm like, I haven't really met that many famous people. But then if I remember, oh, wait, I met this guy and I know this guy in passing. Maybe, I don't know. Entwistle may be one of the more famous people that I've met. I met Steve Vai. I've met, I don't know, not super famous people, but I've met a lot of people that would be considered musicians, like Mike Stern and John Harrington, and lots of different people that are musicians. Steve Smith I met a few times. Frank Gambale. Yeah, Entwistle and John Paul Jones were kind of. And bass players are always, they never get respect. They're like, bass players are like the Rodney Dangerfield of the band. They got no respect. Hey. But it's as someone who does put bands together, the bass is kind of a critical thing. It just holds down. The bass and the drums, I think, are more important than the guitar, and that's me as a guitar player saying this. Oh, Chris is a drummer. Let me take a break for 2 seconds. I gotta run to the restroom, but I'll be back in 2 seconds. Guys, I know it's weird. I can't. I'll be back. I'm back. Of course, dead air. Always a no-no. But sometimes I shouldn't have had that cream of mushroom fettuccine before coming on the air. Lesson learned. Actually, that brings me another story. There was one time, okay. We got a lot of chatting here I have to respond to, but okay, gig story. We were at some place down the shore, Avon, at least not Avon on the Bay, something on the something. Doesn't really matter. Some club, nice big club, big stage, and it was down the shore, and it was kind of a little out of the way. It's off the beach, but it was in like a shore town, and it wasn't a lot around. Usually I get to the gig, and by the time you drive, especially these far gigs, you're driving an hour or two to get to some of these far gigs. You get there, you're kind of hungry, so I'm starving, and then I thought they would have food, but there was no food. They're like, well, we can order you a pizza or whatever, and they'll deliver it to the, but the kitchen was closed at the time. It was, I don't know. But I'm like, what club doesn't have some kind of food, bar food, chicken fingers or something? So I'm starving here, and we're on our break. So outside they have a guy with one of them hot dog vendors, like you see in the city, with the hot water. And I'm like, great, wonderful, hot dog vendor. And so I got the hot dog. The hot dog was warm. Like usually you get out of hot water, it's hot, it's steaming. It's warm, which means it probably wasn't even, it was probably a cold, they put the dog into lukewarm water and never really cooked it. Mistake. So, eat the dog. It's like, okay, I'm not hungry anymore. I thought it was a little, suspect that the dog was not hot. And then, I don't know, a few songs into the set, my stomach starts getting a little weird, a little wonky. And then, I'm singing a song, and if you know anything about singing, bel canto training or whatever, singing is a lot about your diaphragm and your squeezing, and that didn't help the situation much. So I'm trying to, there's little techniques like if you have stomach, even when you have comprehensive vocal training, they think of every scenario. When you're sick, when you have laryngitis, when you have, when you have stomach cramps or whatever, and you can sing without supporting. You have to place it a little higher and not careful not to push. But I wasn't going to support fully because, and like, I'm doing a rap, and I'm cringing as I'm doing a rap or something. I think it was, if I remember correctly, Rapper's Delight or something. And then I finished the rap, and I just put the guitar down and run off the stage. Like, and the stage was high. I was maybe 4 feet. I jump off, run across the room to the bathroom. And then the band is like, what the fuck is going on? But it was like a literal emergency. There was something not right with that dog. And I'm in there for quite a while, like 2-3 songs, and like the manager of the club is like knocking on Dave, is everything all right? You need a doctor or something? I'm like, no, give me, so 2-3 songs, like, I deal with the situation, and then come back out, not feeling great, but and then get back and do another couple of songs. And I think I had to run off a second time a little bit later in the set, and that was always an awkward situation when you just have some kind of issue when you're on a stage. And I'm not always had the best stomach things. I have lactose intolerant, and I probably could have a better diet. But that's my, that was an interesting story. And the band to this day, they're like, you can run off the stage, and it's not the first time. It's I mean over hundreds and hundreds of gigs. Luckily I'm a man that has a couple other singers, and who cares if at that time I think we had a keyboard player, guitar, 2 girl singers, drummer, bass player. So they just did some songs without the guitar. Who cares about the guitar anyway? Chick chick chick, not important. No. And then they just did some songs that the girls sang or whatever. So it's good. I like having I'll get to, I got a couple questions there. What was I gonna say? It's good to have a band that has more than one lead person. I've done trio stuff, which is fun, but it's a lot of pressure. And hopefully I could find a bass player or a drummer that could sing. But, harmonies are really important. Or also just to take off some of the pressure, give you a rest, or if you have to run off the stage because of a bad hot dog, you need somebody to cover it. Drum solo, Moby Dick. What was your aha moment that opened up the fretboard to you and made music theory stick? I don't know if there was an aha moment. I just gradually learned in guitar lessons, different scales. They'd show you the pentatonic box for starters, and I taught for years too. I think it's a gradual thing. I think I had a lot of theory stuff along the way, magazines, books. When I was learning, there was no YouTube. There was guitar for the practicing musician, transcriptions and things like that. But as far as theory, I had one teacher, Don Manzo. He died prematurely a few years ago from a brain aneurysm. It's really hit the. He was integral to the music community in New Jersey. Everybody knew Don. Nicest guy. He taught a lot of the people who are real players these days, and then but he taught me, and we went through a whole thing of theory where we learned all the different scales, all the different modes in different positions, not just one box, but learn it going this way, learn it straight up and down, learn it going this way, learn it on one string, learn the different modes, learn the different sounds of the different modes. It's not rocket science. There's only 12 notes, and in any given scale, you're only using 7. And if you're using the blues, it's more, your pentatonic, and then you got, notes in between, like your flat 5 and your major 7. But I think when I teach, if a kid brings me a song, I've taught all ages from 5 years old to, I had one guy that was, believe it or not, my oldest student. He was in the Korean War. I used to teach him how to he didn't want to learn anything, just how to read. So we went through the different Mel Bay books. But he told me stories about the Korean War. Gives you perspective. I know we're off on a tangent, but it's an interesting story. But he said that, in the Korean War, they got off one boat or something. There was like 200 guys, and by the end of the day, he was the only one alive left. So I was like, damn, we can't really complain about our lives these days, But anyway, back to theory. Theory's critical. Theory and ear training. And you don't have to know super fancy, crazy jazz stuff. I mean, I study that stuff and I don't use it that much, depending on what you want to do. It really depends what you want to do. But I think having a good ear, I don't care if you're doing pop tunes and 3-chord, you should still know, chords. If I'm playing Pink Floyd or Allman Brothers, I know the chord changes and I know the arpeggios, and we can't do a guitar lesson right now, but I don't know if there was an aha moment, just start gradually learning the stuff and knowing the basics, knowing your chords, your chord shapes, knowing what the intervals are, and one thing that gets always left behind is the ear. So you have all these guitar teachers that are like, learn all these scales, learn all these fingerings, great, but what about your ear? Like, put the guitar down sometimes. And my goal was to teach me, say, hey, when you transcribe something, don't hunt and peck. That everybody does it. You do it. I've done it. Do not hunt and peck. Which the hunt and peck method of learning a guitar solo is like, play, no, wrong, play, wait, it's this, and you're fiddling around till you get it. Use your ear. I mean, sometimes you have to a little bit because some of these things are really tricky, but know your intervals. Know the difference between a minor second and a minor third. And just get used to those sounds. There's free apps on the phone, man, that you could do for ear training. And it'll start from very simple, like what's the difference? Just an exercise of, I'm going to play a minor second or a major second, and you say which one is which, and then it'll go through a minor third and a major third, and eventually it'll go through just random intervals, and either played together or played separately, or sometimes at the end of the tricky one it goes down. Instead of going dun dun, dun dun dun, major third, dun dun dun, or it's not major fifth, sorry, dun dun dun, major third, dun dun. Anyway, whole step. You should be able to sing an interval, and you should be able to hear an interval. If you could sing it, that's what a whole step sounds like. When you hear it on a record, it's like, oh. I'm watching the TV all the time, and I'm like, in every horror movie, ooh, minor third, it's in every scary movie or every serious scene, it's a minor third, but if you could do that, and John Harrington from Steely Dan gave me a lesson, and we were talking about George, he's a big fan of George with the big guitar. You know who I'm talking about. Benson. George Benson. He's a big fan of George Benson. And he said, the reason George Benson is so great is because if you notice, he sings a lot of the solos while he's playing it, note for note. And he's like, one of the reasons he could play it is because he could sing it. If you think about it, if you could do nothing else but connect hearing a melody in your head to playing it, you're done. I mean, of course, you should know your theory and all that stuff. But if you could just do that, you could do almost anything, because you could hear a song, know what it is, play it back, hear a cool melody in your head. Your improvisations are going to be amazing because you're going to hear really cool, interesting things and just be able to play them. Not that I could, always do that, but, you got to connect your ear to everything. And then knowing the scales. but what my point is, as you're learning the theory, connect it to what you're hearing, and don't just make it finger exercises, man, because it's just And I used to teach, and I tried early on to get people out of the things that were taught, not taught wrong to me, but just not connected on early on, and then 5, 10, 20, 30 years later, I have to. It's harder to go back and fix those habits. So even 5-year-old kids or whatever, I have them try to do ear training. Like, put the guitar down and let's don't ask me to transcribe this solo. Let's do it together. And then connecting. I mean, the theory isn't really important because I'm always thinking, not really thinking about it, but I'm thinking about it. Is theory, because like I said, with lip service, they'll throw out tracks and they'll start playing the tracks and I'll have to hear it. And I'll first try to obviously figure out the key. So sometimes I'll just slide because I don't have perfect pitch. Most people don't. But I'll be, oh, you're an A. We're an A. We're an A, And then I hear it go up a fourth, or go up a fifth, or go up And if you could hear movement, up, down, it goes up a fourth, goes, and theory, if you're an A major and it goes up a fourth, you're playing D. If it goes up a sixth, you're playing F sharp minor, and it's if you don't know theory, that sounds confusing, but really not. It's just a position, because most pop and rock and a lot of other genres, country, they stick to the same kinds of patterns. I mean, you got your 7 notes in the scale, but usually they only play chords on 6 of them. Usually, don't play the half diminished, it really revolves around that basically, let's say you're in G major, you're going to play G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor. 6 chords. It's only 6 chords. And, and most songs are going to use 3, 4, 5 of them. Maybe the bridge will go down, from G major from the major to the minor. Not much. If you could get that concept down, you could, I think the thing is, depending what your goal is, but basically, if you could, we all have songs and stuff that we love. So what's better than being able to say, I love that song. Why? What is that song doing? That's so cool. Is it the melody? Is it the chord change? Is it the groove? Is it, you start putting, and then you can write your own stuff using this cool stuff that you learned. I like this thing. People say, sometimes they say my stuff sounds like Steely Dan. Well, it's because I listened to a lot of Steely Dan and I learned what he was doing. So I'm like, I like when he does the major 7, then he drop, he does the chord leading thing, and I took some of that stuff and repurposed it, to well, you could buy, you could check out the record and stuff, but there's stuff on there that's right out of Steely Dan on that second record, and stuff that I didn't even intend to be like Steely Dan, but it turned out being some people say Red Flag sounds like Kid Charlemagne, which I never even thought about. I love that song, and I would say Kid Charlemagne is actually very different, or if you look at it musically, but but maybe because they hear minor 7 chords in there, they think Steely Dan in the but there's different. Actually, there's a couple of these first song on the second album, which is going to be My Lover, was definitely consciously influenced by Steely Dan chord changes, like Peg and stuff. There's like a major 7th, right? And there's some, actually at some point I'll do guitar lessons on some of these Steely Dan chord changes. I think I did 1 or 2 on some of the like the intro to Peg, which is really a nice little chromatic drop. But all those fancy jazz things are basically chord leading. Like, how does this chord go to that chord and sound cohesive, like it flows? And it's usually using a common tone or just a small movement, but then changing it, and then everything else in the band, the bass might drop, with it, or the vocal melody. If you notice, the Steely Dan chord changes are very complex. The Steely Dan vocal melodies are very simple. That's on purpose, because there's different theories where you could take a simple chord change and make a complex melody, or you could do a complex chord change and do a simple melody, and that complexity kind of flows. Everything kind of comes together. I don't know if that answers the question. What was the question about? Theory. No, theory is really important, and just gradually, I think having a good teacher helps. Although these days, there's so many, you could just spend an hour or 2 a night on YouTube just saying just type in Dorian, or I was, whole tone solo things, or diminished, or anything. And there's, if you find a particular guy you like, keep learning their stuff. There's a lot of little tips and tricks things out there, country licks or whatever. But it does help to have a good teacher, because they can listen to your playing and figure out what your weaknesses are, like Donnie did with me. We worked on ear training. My ear training was a little weak. Also, anything and everything. And sometimes I'd bring stuff to him. I'd be like, hey, check out this Scott Henderson, and he'd be like, well, what he's doing here is this and this, or you're missing. I remember bringing a solo to him, and I transcribed the solo. This is when I was younger. I was probably 17, 18. But I transcribed the solo, and I was like, well, what key is it? And he's like, well, Dave, what are the chord changes? I can't, you can't tell just from the solo. I'm like, why not? He's like, well, it depends what he's playing over. It depends on, if I'm playing a melody that starts with G over G major, then it's, G major scale. But if I'm playing a melody that starts with G over an E minor chord, maybe it's an E, you're starting on the third of E minor. And for people that don't know music theory, that stuff sounds like, confusing, but it's really not. Don't be intimidated by it. I still get intimidated by some of the crazy jazz stuff. The thing is, it's an infinite bottomless pit of stuff you can learn. And you got. I remember having a lesson with Kanky King, and I was like, I don't know, frustrated, but I was a little intimidated on some of this. She was showing me some finger picking thing, which is her forte. And she's doing some stuff, and it makes it look so easy, and it's this crazy fingering, right hand picking stuff. And I was like struggling. I'm like, it's like this at Kanky, clank, 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 and I'm like fumbling through it. And I'm like, man, I'll get it eventually, but this is, I stink at this, But she was like, Dave, you're obviously an accomplished musician. He's like, I bet there's things that you could do that I can't do. She's like, I can't play a guitar lead for my life these days, at this point, because all she, most of what she does is a lot of the finger picking, But she's like, I can't do a guitar lead. Whereas like you do that. So, when I talk to people, that are also good, that are been around the block, and my teacher would be like, I used to be frustrated that I couldn't do like, some of the fancier jazz stuff. And he's like, Dave, there's nothing, I was like, well, I'm really good at the rock stuff and the funk stuff. And he's like, hey, Dave, there's nothing wrong with being great at the thing that you love. You don't have to be frustrated that you're not an expert in every genre. It's cool when I started this last year or so just experimenting with country, because it was always intimidating to me, the country stuff. And as I started learning it, I thought it was super cool that, wow, that thing that sounded really tricky, once I got my handle on it, it wasn't sound so hard, and I can actually listen back to tapes. I'm like, that almost sounds like a legitimate country lick. And it spread my abilities, because now I am gotten pretty comfortable with the right hand picking, which was a weakness of mine. So find, you can't find every weakness, because it's you'll be playing, there's not enough time in the universe to learn every genre, every style. But find the stuff that you think is cool. Find the stuff that maybe is a little weak part for you. And like lately, I've been trying to focus on country and finger picking, because that was something that was always a weak thing for me. And it's been super cool, because it's just really opened up my phrasings and stuff, because the pick is kind of limiting. There's some phenomenal things you could do with a pick. Listen to Megadeth, or Mike Stern, or a million different guys. There's a guy called Troy Grady who has a YouTube channel, and he has courses on just all he does is picking. He talks about picking. He talks about Yngwie Malmsteen, Eric Johnson, Mike Stern, the flat picking of those country players like what's that girl's name? Molly Tuttle. And he takes a camera and puts it right on their fingers and it shows them their finger picking and breaks it down to the point where what angle you're at, and so you could monochrome downstroke versus an upstroke, and whether you do an odd or even number of notes. And Yngwie does it different than Eric Johnson does it different than Eddie Van Halen. He really breaks it down it really well with animation, and it's really cool. If you want to nail picking, speed picking, whether it's Paul Gilbert or Steve Vai or Yngwie Malmsteen stuff, go check out the Troy Grady lessons and stuff. I've only studied some of the basic stuff, but it did open my mind and made me really think about picking and phrasing, and because there's a brick wall that you get to with picking, speed picking sometimes, and you could do the scales over and over again, but it's like, wait, it's just not clicking, because sometimes it's like, if you break it down, Yngwie always does a certain type of phrasing with a certain type of even number of notes per pick before string change, so it always flows perfectly. But if you started that same phrase with the pick slant going the other way, it doesn't work, because when you come up, you got to be able to come down to the string change. But Troy Grady explains it way better than I do with animations and everything, and it's a mind blowing. It's like a light bulb on picking. But for me right now, at some point maybe I'll take that training. But picking isn't really I have good picking, and it's not. My goal isn't to speed pick like Paul Gilbert or Frank Gambale. Yeah. Segue to Frank Gambale. He's another guy his stuff is really intimidating the way he plays. It's crazy jazz and it's super fast. It's like, I don't know anybody who could play like that. So I met him a few times. He's got that, he's got the jolly Australian kind of personality. That's not a knife, that's a knife. He's got that kind of, quintessential Australian funny personality. But anyway, Frank Gambale, if you don't know him, he played with Chick Corea. Most people have heard of Chick Corea Electric Band with Gianni Patitucci, and Chick Corea, one of the most phenomenal jazz progressive keyboard players in the world. Actually saw his birthday show at the Blue Note. Another story. There was a rapper. Was it not Young MC? One of the other '80s rappers came up there and started rapping with he started beatboxing to Dave Weckl, and then Dave Weckl took whatever he was beatboxing and was playing it on the drums, his hip hop groove, and the rapper, what was his name? It was one of the big early '80s rappers, like around Run DMC, Young MC time. Shoot, I don't remember. I have to think about that. But anyway, he came and did like a birthday rap for Chick Corea. But anyway, back to Frank Gambale. I met Frank Gambale, and I mentioned to something that I might play guitar, and I got a recording or I got a record out, or whatever. And it's like, it's like, next time I'll bring you a copy. You could check out my stuff. I was like, I'm not as good as you. And he looks at me. He's like, in his Australian accent, he's like, it's not a competition, my friend. That's more like an English accent. What's an Australian accent? Australian. It's not a competition, my friend. No, I can't do it. I can't do it with a Frank Gambale accent. Apologize. But anyway, in the jolly, it's shrimp on the barbie kind of accent, friendly. It's not a competition, my friend. That's a little closer. It's still British, but Frank was, like that, and it made me think. He was like, it's not. It's art. It's music. Because guitar players can get really frustrated that I can't play like, they get frustrated. They see Steve Vai or Eric Johnson or somebody be like, I can't do that, and I should quit. And it's like, wait a minute, But then there's like David Gilmour, and then David Gilmour can't do that, and he's like a god amongst, in music, or there's things that, Jeff Beck can do that Steve Vai can't, and there's things that Steve Vai can do that Jeff Beck can't do. Doesn't matter. It's music, and can you move people some way, with whatever your style is. There's guitar players that have their own style. It's not just about technical, advanced, crazy stuff. That some people dig that, that they're really into that. I met Steve Vai, and he was like, he loves the technical, he's like, I love watching my fingers fly around the fingerboard and do crazy stuff, to this day. He loves that, and that's his thing. And, Other people, they want to hear more textural stuff, like, I was talking about Khaki King. Exactly, Dougie Fresh. Bob, were you at that show? How did you know it was Dougie Fresh? He's right. He was Dougie Fresh. That was at the Chicoria gig, and he started rapping. Maybe we're at the same gig. I didn't see you there though. Although that place is kind of weirdly shaped. It's not really shaped well to have a show unless you're right in the front. The bottom line was better for music, but that closed down, unfortunately. And then Iridium is actually a pretty good show. I've seen Andrew, who's on there. We saw Steve. I've seen many shows at the Iridium in New York City, but Steve Vai, who usually plays much bigger places, I just saw on the internet that there was a last minute. They didn't really publicize it for PBS. Steve Vai at the Iridium, which is the smallest place you're ever gonna see him. Usually he plays whatever, Samsung or Sony Arena, and pretty. I mean, the smallest place I ever saw him before that was the Birch Hill, and that fits like 800 people, and it's a pretty big place, and it was packed. And he went on really late, which was annoying, but he went on like midnight or something. We showed up at like 8, so we were like, dude. But anyway. But here's the Iridium, which fits, I don't know, 100, 150 people. Small place. We had a table. So the distance between us and Vi was like from here to that wall. And the sound in there is always phenomenal. Always phenomenal. Yeah, Andrew, I took Andrew. I'm like, you got to check out this guy. You never heard of him. Like, it doesn't matter. Your mind will be blown. There's certain musicians that I take that even, that like, I don't care who you are, your mind will be blown. And to see Steve Vai up that close, I've seen him many times, and I've never seen him make a mistake. He's just, amazing. One of my favorite guitar players. I have somewhere around here, I don't know where it is, I have an autographed cassette of Flexible, which is I think that was the first thing I ever heard. I was an early adopter of Steve Vai. I remember there was one of those guitar magazines had like a one-pager on Steve Vai, and I just happened to be in one of the record stores, and it had a cassette Steve Vai. I'm like, I would just go buy. I'd see guitar players in the magazine, and I'd just go buy their stuff and check it out. And sometimes it was cool, and sometimes it wasn't. But I'm gonna turn back my mic because it looks like it's peaking just a little bit. Yeah, stage presence, crowd interaction. I mean, he had some of the best mentors when it comes to stage presence. I mean, Frank Zappa was his first mentor when he was 18, and if you go on YouTube, there's plenty of him, stories with him about how he auditioned for Frank Zappa. I don't remember the exact stories, but he gave him some like impossible things to play, and then he came and he kind of played them, and he was intimidated, and he didn't think he got the gig, and he got the gig. And Frank was known for being very, very tough, but also having a sense of humor. Frank was like a musical genius. All the people. I mean, the Frank Zappa band was like the music school for future legendary musicians. I mean, drummers, who's who, come out of the. If you were an alumni of the Frank Zappa band, you're that's like a pedigree that people in the music industry will respect you for that. Just for all those people that came through that band that were just top-notch musicians. I can't even list all the people, all the different drummers and people that played. Steve Vai, he's a guitar player, was one of them. But then also David Lee Roth was a mentor, and he was in other bands before that. He was in Alcatraz, but I mean David Lee Roth taught him about being the rock star, and entertaining an audience, and he learned a lot from that. But he all starts from being a phenomenal musician. But what was I saying? Dougie Fresh was the person who was at the Chicoria thing, and that was their Chicoria. They did a reunion for Chicoria's birthday. I think he's at 80 something. Zappa interviews are worth binging on. Yes, I remember being like in high school, and guitar magazines would have interviews. This is before the YouTubes and all that stuff. You actually had to read words on a page. There's a thing called magazines, and there would be interviews with Frank Zappa, and I always loved this his insights on music were just so much different than anything else. All the other rock guys that were just talking about gigs and amps and stuff. He was talking about like philosophically, and about the industry and where the direction it was going, and really, really super. I mean, I'm sure he had like a genius IQ musically, and just as a person, he had interest. He'd talk about politics and philosophy, and there was Dweezil, his son, is still doing Zappa plays Zappa, and from what I hear, it's really good, and I think sometimes even Vi in the original, a lot of the alumni from the band play that, which I would like to see. Because it was obviously you want to see Zappa, but what's great about Zappa is not necessarily. I mean, he was a great guitar player, but his son could cover the guitar stuff really well. Good guitar player as well. The vocal stuff, he's pretty good. The reason you went to see Zappa was more the writing and the quirkiness and the phenomenal musicians. He put something together that was amazing, and he wrote all this great stuff. He put it all together, which is still there. If you get to see some, some of those same musicians, it's pretty wild. Anyway, Zappa is just like I mean, Zappa has so much stuff I haven't even heard it all. That's just what's so amazing. He's got, I don't know, at least 60 albums plus tons of bootlegs, and albums that are just there's not thrown together albums, like composed stuff that's better than anything else that you hear. But my favorite one was probably Apostrophe. It's just a fun, crazy record. But and the other one is Overnight Sensation. Yeah, I mean those are the quote unquote hits. Like I Am the Slime, Dirty Love. Maybe I'll do a cover of that at some point. This is just a cool riff. Diddly boom boom, boom, diddly boom boom. You give me your dirty love and ride some and run around in your dreams. And I could get those Frank Zappa low notes. Actually, last year, Dweezil Zappa was put out something on this thing, and they were looking for someone that could sing the Zappa stuff and play guitar as well. And I wanted to actually submit the stuff, but I didn't have time to learn the material to submit a tape or whatever. But that would have been a really fun gig, because I could nail all of those Zappa vocals. He's got that low, deep voice. Give me your dirty love. Kings a nation with dragon in your dreams. Da-dum-dum-dum, sensation, no middle on nation. Whip me up my nation. I'm singing the wrong words, but your dirty love. Your dirty love. So I get that dirty love note. I just off the top of my head, I can't remember the words, but any new songs, original tracks? I have, in my phone, anytime I come up with an idea for a new tune, I go into my voice recorder and I'm like, doo-ba-doo-ba-da-ba-doo, or usually it's a guitar part or some kind of melody or whatever. So I throw that down, and now in iTunes, and maybe I'll do on one of these things a session where I just kind of play little clips of some of the stuff that I've come up with. And that's like the seeds of ideas, and it's pretty cool when you go back to something, and you play just like, oh, this is like I could go into actually, if you want to see it, I could, because I could show. Here we go. Might as well use this OBS stuff. There's a way to show my screen. Let me try this. Let me see if it works. How do you do that? Desktop. Through OBS. Okay, so now you could see my iTunes, and then I have here, where is it? Dave 3 ideas. So Dave 3 would be the third album, and then here's all my different ideas. And sometimes I'll go back and just fiddle through them, and these are good ideas. These, so I have ideas for the new album, and I go through, and sometimes I hear something like, I don't remember where I came up with this, but it's pretty cool. And I think I have OBS. You tell me. See, I have a cool thing that I have with OBS, which is called Loopback. So there's this Loopback software. So if you're going to do any kind of podcasting, it's super cool. And I tried to do this other ways and host up my computer and crashed and stuff like that. But basically, you could take because when you're doing a stream, it doesn't automatically take the sound from your computer to computer, and put it through the stream. You have to route things, and there's really nothing out of the box on on a computer that does that. This software is just phenomenal. You could you could just add sources, boom, 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 different programs, anything with audio, website. I could play a YouTube video, in this case iTunes, and I could play it, and it'll route right to. This is basically an Apogee, which is the same sound that I use for recording. So, well, when I play this, you guys, I don't know, you tell me. Well, yeah, apparently, according to Loopback, you could hear this. Don't judge, but basically, I'll just come up with kind of melody ideas in crappy auto-tune falsetto or whatever. But, and here's something that was kind of cool. It's catchy, right? Anyway, I really love the bass line that I came up with that. I'll get a real bass player to play it better. And this is, a lot of the ideas are just thrown out. You can't hear it. But it says, wait. Oh, you know why? Duh. Thank you for telling me. I know why. It's Loopback audio. Burp. I gotta turn the volume up on the Loopback. So that it's all routed, but it's all routed to this Loopback audio thing. Now you tell me if you hear it now. Can you hear that? Six-pack Lake Shack, kicking back and drinking a beer. Can you hear that? That should be going through. Anyway, that song, I gotta tweak it a little. I really like it, but it sounds a little too derivative of Joe Jackson's Look Sharp. Love the song, love the groove. It probably was the inspiration for that song, but alright, got it working. It sounds a little too much like that song, I think. So I got to maybe tweak it a little bit. I don't want to wind up in a situation like Blurred Lines, right? Although I guess if you think about it, if you get such a hit that's such a big hit that you're getting sued for millions, it's a good problem to have. Better than that than no hit at all, I guess, right? If I get to that point, that'll be not the worst of problems, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I have that. I have a lot of different ideas. What I've been working on is more the promotion, because I just know that now I'm sharing the screen. Now I could go back to my face. See how this is OBS. I know you see the infinity thing here, but if you look at the bottom, I have all these different. I could show. Well, Logic isn't open right now. Oh, here, check this out. Isn't that pretty cool? Boom, and then it ends off there. So there's lots of cool stuff you could do. It's like, so now I could turn off the desktop and you go back to my pretty face. I could even do Skype, which I want to try. Maybe, I don't know if anybody wants to dial into Skype and talk for real. I should be able to get it on just like a live talk show. And another thing I just put together here. Boop, check that out. Live Saturday, 9:30 p.m. Come check out my complete, actually real music, not just talking about music. They're both fun, but so I'll keep that up there. 9:30, and this is something I created in Canva, which is a really cool program that just you could make. There's a free and a paid just like anything else, but the free version you could do stuff like this and just create all sorts of banners and crazy stuff. I didn't do this in Canva. I had somebody on Fiverr do this for me, and this and a couple of other ones were like $40-50. But I was a guest on the Music Pulse show, and he said to do the show you need a banner, and he gave me his guy, and he did a really good job of it. It looks really pretty. So I figured I might as well use it for this. So this Loopback stuff is Loopback is really cool. I had the free version, but the free version works for like 2 minutes, and then then it dies. It actually starts playing static. So I was debating whether I should buy it, and I tried Soundflower, which was like a freeware thing that came out before Loopback. I think basically Loopback was the precursor. Loopback was Soundflower, and people said, "Oh, you could use it." And I tried it on the old operating system, and then I upgraded the operating system. Like, let me try it again because it never worked. And I was messing with it and following the instructions how to get it to work, and it totally hosed up my whole computer. So that was a no. And after that, I was like, I'm just paying for the Loopback. I gotta run. Oh, cool. Yeah. But you see Bob. We used to see Bob all the time at the Woodbridge Hilton, and sometimes when we played at the place in Scotch Plains, he would come by. Now nobody's coming anywhere, but this is at least the good thing is we could get some people who, we haven't seen in a while to get on some live streams 9:30. But anyway, with the Soundflower, I was pulling my hair out like 2 nights ago. I got no sound from the computer at all. Like I have a Rosetta 800, which you could play audio in and out of. It's for recording and everything, but it could do, it's the interface to get sound in and out. It's a real professional interface used for like professional recording studios, and this mic is running through it. But basically everything runs through that, and somehow it got hosed up where it was not recognizing the interface. And I was rebooted the computer like 6-7 times, and there's Apogee software, and I was trying to mess with that, and it just wasn't. I forget how I finally got it to work. I don't know, because if that's not working, I can't even play YouTube videos. I can't even play iTunes. So it hosts up the whole computer, and I was messing with it for like hours to finally get it to work. I'm like, I'm not touching that again, And I was really going through some stress with the OBS. There's ways to add like free VST plugins, which add a compressor and an EQ and things to the audio, and that hosts up OBS where OBS was crashing. I tried to take the filter off that I put on. I'm like, oh, well, just take it off. It's just hosing up, hosing up and crashing things. And then when I tried to take it off, it crashed the whole OBS, closed it all out, and then. I read something that there was an issue as a known bug. So to take the filter off, you just have to disable that channel and then try to take. So I disabled the channel, and it crashed the OBS completely. And then I was in a situation where I'd open it up and it would crash. I couldn't even get it open to do anything to fix the problem, which was really frustrating. I was like getting really angry. So I wound up rebooting, and I think that reboot kind of fixed it. Here's the thing. One of my, at my day job, I'm troubleshooting stuff all day long with SQL databases and servers and WSFTP stuff. And then at home, when I'm doing my fun stuff, I'm troubleshooting. I'm troubleshooting 24/7. But anyway, what was my point? I don't remember. So let's see who is on this thing. Let me look at my phone. Anyway, yes. So as far as original stuff, that's what's going on. So we'll hang out for a little bit longer. Any specific questions? I haven't watched the chat for a while. Zappa. Here trainings. Geddy Lee. I haven't met Geddy Lee. Remember, but Rush is a big fan of Rush, obviously. But anyway, I'm learning this software. It seems to be working properly. I'm glad the Loopback worked. It's a fun new toy. I can route things. So eventually, what I might do is have a. You actually could do a lot of stuff. You could do React videos. One thing that's kind of fun I've been watching is sometimes a person, whatever, a hip hop guy reacts to Van Halen, or rock guy reacts to jazz or something. Kids react to Motley Crue. Motley Crue reacts to kids reacting to Motley Crue. Whatever. Those are fun because and you could I could play a YouTube clip I just don't know what the rules are. 'Cause, I mean, a Reacts video, I think you can because legally, um, if you could do a derivative work of something if you're teaching or commenting on it or doing like you could do a review of a movie and show a clip of the movie, but that's different than like just just playing the movie and things. I don't know, it's still a gray area, I think, with things getting taken down. I know Rick Beato. If you're into music, you should subscribe to his YouTube channel. Lots of really interesting content about music. His son is like he teaches ear training. Actually, it's one of the courses I may actually get when I get some time. But he does like why is this song great, and he plays little pieces of the song. And he did one on, I think it was Stairway to Heaven, and Zeppelin is notorious for just taking stuff down, and it got taken down. Even though it was an educational thing, it's an algorithm. The algorithms aren't smart enough to know what what's legit and what's not. So anyway, randomly repeat Friday, Saturday. I'm trying to. I'm trying to add a new original each show. Last week we did Red Flags. We did What Would You Do for the First Time, which is the ballad, and then Sun in the Rain. I may do Matter of Time, which is kind of a Americana rock with a little bit of funkiness put into it. I don't know, it also reminds me a little bit of like The Way I Do by Melissa Etheridge, which I always dug. Melissa Etheridge. And but that I probably will throw that into the mix this week. And there's another one that I want to do that's a little trickier. There's another one called Blameless, which I really dig that song. It's one of my favorite ones on that album. It starts out really pretty. It starts out almost reminds me of Careless Whisper by George Michael. Has a little acoustic guitar part like it, but then it goes into a rock part, which is more, I don't know what it's like, if it was Rush or whatever. It goes into this hard rock, and by the end, this crazy lead guitar with like with the higher power vocal. I have to practice singing it and playing it a little better, so hopefully I could do that maybe in the next 2 weeks. That is a cool song, and I'm trying to figure out what else basically I want to get to the point where I could do on the Saturday show a full set of originals, 45 minutes. And then once this COVID thing is cleared up, when we could do gigs, I could bring Gary on drums, Donna on bass, Karina on backup vocals, and do like real gigs at Arlene's Grocery, and people are texting me. Anyway, I'll answer that person later. People like to text me because I'm so cool. What was I saying? I don't know. I thought I turned the vibrator off. The vibrator on the phone, I meant. And for some reason, it's still vibrating. I don't understand why it's still vibrating. Anyway, what was my point? Once we run out of water, the show's over. That's So, and I've been starting to invite people. I'll probably try to do this every Thursday. Let me put this phone someplace out of the way. I forget. Leave it there. We'll live with the vibrations. Good vibrations. But I know a lot of musical friends and stuff. So eventually what we'll have is maybe people chime in and guests and talk about music, talk about gigs. I have a lot of people that I kind of mentor that ask me questions all the time about music, what gear to buy, about singing, about getting gigs, about writing, and I want to get those people on there, and so we could do like a little bit of Q&A and just help people, because it's like people are constantly asking me stuff, and one-on-one I'm like helping them, and they say, wow, that's great advice, but I think it's something that a wider audience would benefit from, and might as well make cool content out of it. And it's cool. I always want to do something like that. People are always asking me stuff, and I'm like, hey, I should have recorded that and put it on YouTube or whatever as a little mini lesson or something, because that, sometimes I don't know what to talk about, but people then ask questions, and I'm like, oh, that's a good question, and let me think about that, and then think about all the points that I would make on that subject about gear or songwriting or whatever, getting gigs. And a lot of times I repeat myself, and I'm making the same points or whatever. And I'd rather have a discussion or a dialogue so we could talk, get some of these ideas out there. Because I know what I'm talking about at least some things. Anyway, at least I know how to use OBS now. Although one thing I do obviously need to do is work on color correction. That's something I'm doing YouTube videos or checking YouTube videos about. One thing I know these days, I mean, I've always been this way, but if I want to figure something out, what I used to do is I'd go to the library and buy 2-3 books on it, read the books and figure it out. When I bought a house, went to the library, got 3 different books on real estate and how to buy a house, and it helped me negotiate it. It helped me with the whole process. I mean, if you're gonna do something, there's no reason to not have to be like, I don't know how, nobody knows. I need somebody to help me. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, I would go to the library. Now, it's just go to YouTube. I mean, there's really no, I mean, Gary Vaynerchuk has, who's an entrepreneur that does all sorts of seminars, and he puts content out constantly with advice on starting businesses or building up or whatever. And he was on stage, and somebody asked him, well, how do I start? How do I start a podcast to start promoting? He's like, oh, here's a website. It'll tell you everything. Write this down. GOOGLE.com. Write that down. So his point is, there's no excuse to not. I don't know how to start. I don't know how to do a podcast. I don't know how to use the software. Just shut the f up. Are you kidding me? Go to Google. Go to YouTube. There's probably 200,000 articles on how to do anything you're thinking of. How to start a frog farm. I don't know, any crazy weird shit. How to raise carrots. I mean, how to do do a podcast. I mean, come on. I mean, you could at the very least, learn enough that you need to get started and get up and running. You might have to buy specific classes to do advanced things, or even maybe get a mentor or start a mastermind with other people. Those are also great things to do. But to get started, how do you start a Twitch channel? What do you need to do? Just Google or YouTube how to start a Twitch, or do's and don'ts of starting Twitch. How to color correct. Some people just don't want to put the effort in. That's all. I was always the person where the main thing is I'm trying to figure out how to do something that I want to do. Whatever I got to do it. If I have to read 10 books, if I have to learn it, I have to take the class, if I have to read the manual, that's what you got to do. Nobody's going to do it for you, But the benefits are, phenomenal, because now I know how to use OBS. It took me a couple of weeks of doing YouTube videos and, basically everything I know in OBS, and the reason this works at all, and not that I'm by any stretch of the imagination an expert, but I got an A6500 camera working. The YouTube, I learned that hack from YouTube, how to without a captured card to get the camera to work. When the white balance is all wacky and I was using the colored lights and my face is all white and weird, I just watched a half a dozen videos until I found one that talked about adjusting the white balance to adjust for colored lighting. Not rocket science. Just whatever you do, there's somebody out there, and you're learning. Now, is this perfect? I still got to need to color correct it. I got to work on the lighting, but you know what? It works. It's an improvement over my other camera, which is this one, which obviously I have to adjust the lighting to accommodate that camera. This camera has an aperture setting and ISO setting, so I can, under dark light, it can look a lot look brighter. But anyway, point was you could actually, I was thinking about this the other day, and something I wanted to mention. There's no excuse to not figure anything out, or at least have enough to start, and at least enough to educate yourself to know where to look and how to ask the right questions. Sometimes something that's really complicated, I'm like, I need an expert. I need like my furnace broke, and I learn how to do all the parts and everything, and then take apart the thermocouple and replace it and everything. But then my cousin who works on those things, I still wasn't working, so I called him up and Skyped him, and we were troubleshooting it. Now, when it gets to advanced troubleshooting, sometimes you might need an expert. I don't know, but like all the stuff with my computer, troubleshooting. I should put my face here so I'm not covered up by a banner. But I was banging my head against the wall, but I was just Googling and Googling and Googling and trying different things and going on forums, and I figured it out. And when a little dirty little secret is a lot of times, professional programmers that do it for a living, troubleshooting or coding, they're on Google, they're on Stack Overflow, they're on the forums trying to figure stuff out because nobody knows everything. You think that a programmer's, you ask them to program something, then they have the whole thing laid out in their head. And no, they have a general concept, and they know they could probably get 90% of it done if they're experienced. But there's going to be a time where they're Googling. I was working on a Facebook formula today, and I had to Google what the formula, what the right syntax was. Google. It's phenomenal. We didn't have that. You have to go to the freaking library, and But anyway, I think I'll close off on that concept because it's been a while, but I think this was a fun thing, and I'll probably do this again next week. And Saturday 9:30, we will be jamming some music. Hasta la vista, baby.